Very nice. I like it.
Way to go, Mayor.
Heck, had you not shown up, the rest of us could have gone home.
Oh, yeah.
You have to grass in there, right?
And mine, you know, like 30 or 40 years ago. Goes to roots,
Yeah.
tells jokes and stories, and all that.
Or Chris or not Chris.
He's got a newspaper article.
And I took it out, and my brother came. We had the generation,
Talking about his big
mother and daughter.
We've been
Yeah, you start to ship whenever you want.
Practice started this week.
We know who you are.
We know you.
My brother, his father, here.
Yeah, you know, the other coaches, they've been down to Florida. I'm watching the guys.
Shut up down.
Mayor Hutto, y'all can meet on the 5th green tomorrow. All right. Hey, I'm Mayor Billy Vogel. My name tag's on the floor, but I'm sure for a little while, I'm gonna be chairman of this committee. I'd like to welcome everybody this morning to the Transportation Policy Board. And I thank everybody for being here. We do have a quorum. And we'll move to our first order of business. In your packet, you do have the minutes from February meeting. I'll take a motion when you're ready. I got a motion? Got a second? All in favor, say aye. Has anybody got any questions? Not all in, say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. Minutes are filed. This time, I'll open the floor to any member of the public who wishes to make a comment to the Transportation Policy. Seeing none, we'll move on then to agenda 3A, which is our election of officers. It's the time of year when the body elects the chair and the vice chair to serve throughout the calendar year. And at the prior meeting, I appointed Mary Esther Reed of Smyrna, Roger Anderson of Highly Williamson County, Randall Hutto of Wilson County to serve as nominating committee.
Yeah, to the Highly Williams County.
Let me tell you, y'all made my email interesting yesterday. I'd like to introduce Mayor Anderson to event the state of nominees for the chair and vice chair.
Chairman, I'm gonna let Mayor Hutto do that. He is much more versed in that. And since Mayor Easter couldn't be with us, I'm sure she's getting her nails done this morning and she couldn't make it.
Maybe a pedigree, what call you do to your toes and all that. Okay. Mayor Hutto, would you like to have that privilege?
Yield that back to Mayor Anderson.
Mayor Anderson, I'm afraid it's up to you.
We, through Michael's effort, had contacted several people and it's my understanding that Mayor to my right has agreed to step in and do the honors, Mayor O'Connell, for, is it next year? You've got all that. Why don't you give the dates, Michelle? Can you do that?
So,
Next month.
yes,
Next month. The next.
so we have the slate has both for vice chair and for chair, and their current vice chair is, Mayor Callis.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's, what you have a county mayor and then when you swap, you go to a city mayor. Is that right? Okay, I like, thank you, Mayor Anderson.
So I believe the slate you're putting forward is Mayor Callis becoming chair and Mayor O'Connell becoming vice chair.
Is there any questions or additional nominations? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to elect the chair and the vice chair as nominated. Got a motion by Mayor Brown and a second by Mayor Hutto. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? So moved. Thank you for the nominate committee for your diligent work. I worked hard at that and I appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're amending the Transportation Improvement Set Program. I'm going to introduce Sean Norfield, GNRC TIP Coordinator, present the amendments for 23-26 Transportation Improvement TIP Program Cycle C for endorsement.
Thank you, Chair. So as a review, the TIP is a short-term program that covers a 4-year span. It lists all regionally significant and federally funded transportation projects and services in our MPO area. Must be consistent with the regional transportation plan and fiscally constrained. The current TIP is fiscal year 2023 to 2026, was adopted in November 2022, and accounts for about $1.7 billion. And you can reach our interactive map of all of the projects in the TIP at gnrc.org/TIP. So today we have 7 amendments adding $2.8 million in federal funds to the TIP and about $1.1 million in state funds from TDOT's Multimodal Access Grant. The first is Lebanon State Route 10 Phase 3 pedestrian improvements. This is expanding on a sidewalk project, adding about $1.1 million in state funds from the Multimodal Access Grant to the fiscal year 2024 NEPA design right-of-way and construction phase. Next are 2 Metro Nashville projects that will be combined due to overlapping scopes. First is various intersection improvements, which involves safety improvements, including signals, markings, and guardrails. This is going to be combined with the scope of the pedestrian signal priorities, which is installing pedestrian facilities and signalization at 10 of the most dangerous intersections through Davidson County. So this includes the scope in its entirety, including $1.3 million in federal Service Transportation Block Grant, or USTVG funds, for the Nashville-Davidson urbanized area, and near $600,000 in reserve funds for fiscal year 2026 construction phase. No additional funds will be added to the TIP. Following this would be the closed project for pedestrian signal priorities due to the inclusion in its entirety in the previous project. Next is 2 Gallatin projects that will be combined: Vol State Gap Trail Phase 2 and Vol State Gap Trail Phase 2B. This project is a multi-use path along Nashville Pike. This will be combined to be renamed Vol State Gap Trail Phase 2A and B. The scope of Phase 2B is being added in its entirety, including near $500,000 in local funds and about $950,000 in federal TAP funds for fiscal year 2025 construction phase. Following this is the close of project for Vol State Gap Phase 2B due to the inclusion in the previous project. Next is RTA's track rehabilitation and maintenance. This project is for routine track rehabilitation and maintenance on the Star Line from Lebanon to downtown Nashville. And this includes replacing ties, rebuilding crossings, installing panelings, and resurfacing of track. Adding about $1.7 million in federal FTA 5337 funds to fiscal year 2024 implementation phase from the TIP project WeGo Star Rail improvements. So no additional funds will be added to the TIP. And finally is MTA's administration building rehabilitation for Nestor. This is for rehabilitation and maintenance of WeGo's Nestor facilities. Adds $2.8 million in federal FTA 5307 funds to the fiscal year 2024 implementation phase. And I'll pass it back over to the chair for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Shay. Any questions for Shay? Anyone from the public like to make a comment on this pertaining to this proposed action? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adopt resolution 2402, amending the transportation improvement program. Second. Got a motion by Mayor Moore, second by Mayor McConnell. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? So moved. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our informational items. Roadway safety planning updates. If you were here for our February meeting, you remember staff way. Do I? Yeah,
We actually need someone in the NPO footprint to give our second.
okay,
Our mayors that are in the.
tell that man he can't make a second. Yeah, you participate, okay.
GNRC's 7-county footprint.
All right, I need somebody from the, thank you. Michael's not here today, so she's kicking my ankle to keep me straight with her good foot. Michelle, now tell us what we need.
We just need a second from a mayor that's in our. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
I got a second from Mayor Hutto back there.
Thank you.
Okay, do I need to call for vote again? Yeah, I guess we need to do that, just to be right. Okay, all in favor, say aye. All opposed? So moved. Thank you, Mayor McCollum. Sorry. Yeah. Well, had mentioned Michelle. Okay, if you wasn't here for February meeting, we had a presentation from staff here about the roadway safety performance measures. And there's a lot of discussion following, and I'm going to introduce Daniel and Ashley Glasscock to present a brief update related to some of the questions that came up during that meeting.
All right, thank you, Chair. So you all may remember from our February meeting, we had a few members ask for research to identify levels of funding and best practices of our peer communities for law enforcement related to roadway safety. So staff did some research on some best practices across the country on different enforcement tactics that have been proven effective. You also expressed interest in grant funding via the Safe Streets for All federal opportunity that Melanie Murphy presented on, as well as a comparison among statewide and regional crash trends. So we've put together a couple slides responding to those questions. Hopefully you'll find the information interesting. So we looked at a couple studies by the NHTSA, a couple federal safety agencies, as well as the Urban Institute, looked at just some enforcement research on different safety or enforcement measures to improve safety. So basically studies that are looking at how does investment in different enforcement tactics influence safety outcomes. More specifically, we looked at DUI checkpoints, speed traps, seatbelt enforcement, and automated enforcement. And we found, a couple things in those studies that tell us that those enforcement tactics can be successful in certain contexts. So we'll continue to look into that more and come back with a report on exactly which enforcement tactics might be able to be utilized in our region to improve safety in our communities.
What's automated enforcement?
Automated enforcement is using cameras and other related technology to send people speeding tickets or other traffic violations rather than having an officer actually stop someone while they're committing a violation. Any other questions on that? So just to remind you, the Safe Streets for All grant is currently open. It's a U.S. Department of Transportation program to prevent roadway deaths and serious injuries. This current fiscal year, there's about $650 million available for planning and demonstration grants. There's currently 3 different application deadlines for those opportunities. So we took a look at some past awards to put together potential opportunities for a regional application, as well as provide you with a little bit more information in case you're thinking about applying for a local grant. So just to remind you, we're available to assist with any opportunities to provide data research or help discuss your application, any ideas that you might have for either a planning and demonstration grant or an implementation grant. If you're in need of a letter of support, just reach out to us. We're happy to provide that. And then we looked at a couple options to prepare a regional application. So we're still working through that. That could include data collection and research activities. So you may remember acquiring Replica, a data platform that helps us track mobility patterns, look at a couple other regional transportation data analysis as well. So we looked at a couple data collection opportunities, possibly acquiring new data sources and other analysis that might aid our regional transportation plan update, as well as our safety action plan that we could be applying for, as well as a regional quick build program. So it's essentially temporary safety improvements like crosswalk improvements or lighting improvements, as well as traffic calming that could turn into a regional program that we administer to improve safety in regional communities. So we're currently looking at that. If you have any comments or questions about that, we're happy to take those, and we'll come back with more information on a regional application for Safe Streets for All.
Daniel, would traffic, red lights, would that count?
Like implementing a signal.
What, Jerry, help me out here. We need
Traffic, improvement in intersection, traffic light, turn lanes.
would that cover in this grant?
That would be more of a, and Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that sounds more of like a permanent construction effort. So that probably wouldn't fit into a quick build program.
No, so the planning and demonstration grants are for more pilot type projects where you're doing things that aren't going to be permanent installs. If you have an action plan that demonstrates that we have a safety need at this intersection or along this corridor, we can leverage that action plan to fund that implementation funding. But without that action plan in place, then now we're limited to planning and demonstration.
And I'll mention that we're looking to hopefully do a regional plan. Looking at exactly what that would look like, but it would hopefully make all of our locals eligible for the implementation grant for the activities that you're discussing.
And Daniel, if I can say, so this program is a priority of the secretary. And so the Office of the Secretary has put together a team that is tasked with doing outreach to prospective applicants. At the Tennessee division here, we are sort of limited in how much we can engage because it is a competitive grant application process. We can't be seen to be influencing that, but if there is any interest along with the GNRC staff, we do have resources that we can help to help guide everyone's thoughts if there is consideration for this.
All right, so getting on to a little bit more information on our regional safety trends. We took a look at all 7 of our MPO counties compared to the rest of the state over the last 10 years. So we essentially took an average of all of the counties in our region. And it's essentially some of the key takeaways are we have 3 times the number of fatalities compared to the county average on the rest of the 88 counties, 4 times the number of serious injuries, 5 times the number of non-motorist fatalities and serious injuries, 5 times the number of crashes total. That's across all modes. And every MPO county is ranked in the top third of the Tennessee County ratings for every metric that we looked at. So it's not just Davidson County. It's not just another one of our counties. Every single one of our counties is in the top third of the Tennessee County rankings for crashes, especially severe crashes. So I think that's a pretty profound statement that, you know, our whole region is pretty dangerous, and just coming back with a little bit more information on exactly what that looks like in our region compared to the other regions.
Actually, with regard to that statistic, what's the volume of traffic that's occurring in our region versus all the comparables? We may have 3 times the fatalities and 5 times the accidents. Do we have 5 times the traffic?
Right. Max, I'll kick it to you on that one.
Yeah, for VMT, we do have more than other parts of the state for sure, but other metropolitan regions within the state, I mean, we're right on par with them. I think at the meeting last month, 2 months ago, we kind of disproved the myth that safety is directly related with VMT or population change. It trends along with it, but it goes up and down just based on how safe or dangerous your roads are.
So this is not from a per capita basis.
No, this is just looking at number of lives affected.
Any other questions on this slide?
Number 1. What county was number 1?
I believe Shelby.
Shelby.
Yeah, it's typically number 1, at least in the 10 years of data I've seen.
Your map there, the darkness in it, is that indicating where most of the accidents occurred? Explain that map.
Correct. That's a point for every crash, I believe,
Okay.
during that 10-year time period.
Daniel, was this
analyzed with like what was the cause of the crash? Whether it was,
We didn't look at that
whether it was,
specifically.
you
for
know,
this analysis.
under the influence or.
Not on this, but I think the next slide with the safety profiles gets to kind of more of what you're asking about.
So I'll go on to that. We've put together, with the help of Max's team and Ashley on our team, county profiles for all 7 counties in our region. That includes crash location statistics, rankings, more of a narrative that goes into, you know, the cause of the crash and different trends that are more present in different municipalities as well as the counties. You know, impaired driving, probably young drivers.
Young drivers, senior drivers, alcohol related, belting, I believe.
Yeah. So those are available on gnrc.org/fileshare/safety profiles. If you want to take a look at your community, the municipalities are spotlighted on those as well. So if you want to take a look at those and see how your county measures up compared to the rest of the counties as well as the state, take a look at those. I won't go through those right now, but those are online for you to download if you are interested.
I know we had a conversation at one of our other meetings. We were wondering, like, we were talking about pedestrian deaths. How many of those occurred outside of a pedestrian walk?
Mhm.
How many bike incidents were taking place, not in the bike lane and those things? Some of that's hard to control, right? We were talking about people walking in between cars, out in the middle of the lane. You know, those are hard to quantify. If it's an unsafe condition, if somebody's walking out in front of you, they shouldn't have been walking in front of you. And so that was, I know some of the conversations we had in here as well about how do we manage that? So is it for pedestrian crosswalks in certain areas?
Well, that might be some of it, but I think going back to the conversation we had at the last meeting, it's more complex than that. It's not just the infrastructure. It could also be enforcement. It could be different policies. It could be state policies. There's a bunch of different reasons, I think, why our roads are unsafe. And so I think it should be a collective effort to tackle this issue.
I know Metro has a traffic calming program that they're working on. We were looking at some of their designs and things that they're doing as well. For little bitty communities, suffers just as much as anybody else with maybe people not paying attention and driving erratically at times. So we're looking at some traffic calming measures on roads that we have problems with. I was just curious about the data about, I know pedestrian deaths takes up sometimes a headline, but I was just curious where those are really happening at and how that works.
We can look into more details on pedestrian specific deaths as well as crashes. So we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you, Mayor Kelly. I think sometimes the time of the day to pedestrians, like at night, makes a big contribution toward them things. So, hey, it's a good comment.
Find that material and dig down in and put our high schools on the,
Like proximity to schools.
yeah, that would be interesting to see how many accidents occur around our high schools.
So we have looked at that before. Max can provide more information after I finish explaining it, but I think one thing we found that was really interesting is that school zones work. The crashes and fatalities are down within school zones. But once you get out of the quarter mile that's required for a school zone, it increases dramatically. Is that characterized correctly?
So the safety measures around schools are effective.
Yeah. Which, going back to your point, are, pretty much directly related to traffic calming.
Safety related issues with vehicles they're becoming more, safe equipment, safety wise, so I mean, I'm thinking younger kids, a lot of them are going to be driving older cars, couldn't afford to have a car that's got a lot of safety features in them. So I was just kind of wondering if that would have an impact. You would think our crashes would be going down. I know everybody's got mirrors and beeping. In the lane, you're beeping, you're backing up, you're beeping, you're going to hit somebody. All these modern day cars should be adding to the safety of our roads.
Mm-hmm.
They're driving on the road, so. Either that or all the states are sending all their worst drivers to Tennessee, and that may be a possibility, but it seems like all these crashes we're getting, but,
Jerry, people's probably still texting too. How many of y'all made a phone call today when coming this meeting?
Just gonna add, I think objectively though, cars are in fact becoming more dangerous to people external to the vehicles, right? They're getting heavier, they're getting taller. There's front designs on a lot of the trucks in the more rural communities, y'all, very aggressive design, really high. And so that contributes to pedestrian fatality. You got hit by a little old sedan from back in the day, you might get knocked up on the hood, you know, God forbid, but if you get hit by that truck now, and so any safety feature that gets added, to your point, Chair, is, you know, then you've got the touch screen and you've got your phone, and then you're in a, you know, so there's sort of an arms race that I see among my peers and constituents is you feel like all the cars are getting bigger. So the next time you buy a car, you get, you know, the big aggressive Suburban, you get the bigger truck. And so I personally, as somebody that walks and bikes in my community, I don't feel like the vehicles are safer. You know, I mean, yes, backup cameras, excellent safety feature. But I think just out on our predominant roadways, the fact that vehicles are, and even electric vehicles, y'all. So, you know, the electric F-150 that everybody's really excited about, it is super, super heavy. It's going to damage our roads. It's more likely to kill people. So just, it's a big factor, I think.
One of the things that we've experienced in Nolensville with regard to the peds, and it's particularly with kids, are the e-bikes. Where you have kids riding a bicycle that'll cruise at 30 miles an hour, and we're finding them running down our sidewalks at 15, 20 miles an hour on those e-bikes and not stopping when it comes to the street. They'll just zip right across. Sometimes they look, sometimes they don't. We've got 2 instances that happened in a 2-week span where they were crossing one of our major roads. And in one case, the kids never looked. They just zipped right across and missed getting hit by one of those big pickup trucks who was doing the speed limit. He was doing everything he was supposed to do right. And an e-bike pops right out in front of him and he swerves and misses the kid by inches. And then the very next week, we actually had another child get hit, but it was in a school zone because the traffic had backed up and there was a little bit of gap. The kid darts across. The person who was in the lane had no opportunity to see him and bumped him. Didn't know one got hurt, but we find that the kids are abusing their e-bikes too. That's becoming an issue. Might be the same thing with the scooters that y'all have in Nashville.
Chair, am I recognized? I'm sorry, I don't know the rules. Okay. The thing I would say though is I think people in community, and I mean, and that's tragic, and that was an error on that kid's part. But people notice bikes more because there's so few of them. And so there is nothing inherently dangerous in a bike relative to the truck or the vehicle, or it is the more dangerous vehicle, the truck, the car. Objectively, it's more dangerous than the bike itself. So it's not about the bike, it's about the behavior of the person on the bike and the design of the roadway or the intersection that would have him cross there. Also, I don't believe e-bikes go 30 miles an hour. And there are 3 tiers of them. Somebody can speak to that better than I, but it's something that draws a lot of attention. Certainly in Nashville, a lot of concerning behavior of people on scooters. But if we just look at the proportionality, I would ask us to consider that and not kind of say like, oh, you know, it's the bike's problem or it's the problem of the scooter.
It was a bike problem. I wasn't at all suggesting that. What I was suggesting is that it's a behavioral problem in our case with the kids, because I don't think that we have taught our kids the proper way to cross intersections with their bicycles. You know, when I was growing up and you crossed an intersection, you got off your bike and walked it across. That's obviously not what's occurring today. The e-bikes themselves are not the problem. I completely agree with that. But it is as we try to keep and do everything we can do to make our streets safer, there's still an educational component that we need to produce in our entire society on how you're supposed to act and interact with streets.
And education for drivers as well. I think Tennessee driver education, that's maybe something we should talk about. I don't think that's that great. I think that could be improved really, because to your point, people don't maybe know to be looking for people on bikes. A lot less kids bike now. You know, when I was coming up, y'all were coming up, everybody kind of biked around and went to friends' houses and everything. So knowing the rules is not something that we've really done a good job of. So I concur with you.
I think the education component is a good point to bring up. You know, you can improve the roadway design of the roadway with traffic calming. You can add enforcement to school zones, but if you're not, you know, tackling the education campaign, then it can still be an issue. So it's a good point.
I had one question. Without getting too deep into the weeds on some of the numbers that are there, I see that Rutherford County is 89th for overall fatal crash rankings. I saw Sumner County's 90th. And so what can y'all shed some light on? Are there more rural counties? Because I'm guessing that's like number of fatalities per million VMT or per something like that. If it kind of surprised me to see, is that saying what I think it's saying, that relatively speaking, you know, this is the 89th, it has the 89th least, you know, per VMT. Is that what that's saying? Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, the one that you're seeing there, or at least the one I can read, it says 89th overall fatal crash rate ranking, and that's the normalized per VMT that I think Victor was speaking to earlier.
And so did that kind of surprise me to see it be that?
Urban areas are typically
VMT, is that basic? So like your more rural counties see more fatalities basically with less VMT.
Yeah,
As you average it out.
in general, I will say that along the counties that have interstates in them, that you'll see some oddities there.
That makes sense. Just a lot more driving.
Right.
I got it. Okay.
Big factor in that. You go faster on rural roads than you can in urban roads.
I was also a bit interested to see if you pull that up on the website, the motorcycle data is shocking. It's like 1 or 2% of all crashes involve motorcycles, but 17% in Sumner County of the fatalities involve motorcycles. That was kind of surprising. I didn't expect that.
Those are typically disproportionate, but pedestrians are a similar way.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. Anybody got any questions for Daniel before we move on? Good comments all. Okay, move to item B, connect downtown presentation. Let's turn it back to Daniel again.
All right, thank you, Chair. So we have Marty Sewell here from NDOT to present on the Connect Downtown plan. Just wanted to introduce him and thank him for being here to present on the plan. I was on the stakeholder committee representing GNRC throughout the development of the plan. I would say it's a very regional plan. A lot of the recommendations have regional impacts, whether it's congestion related, safety related, transit related. So I would encourage you to be engaged and ask any questions you might have. I'll also mention that one of the first phases of the plan is to improve traffic signals in the downtown area, which we recently funded and this board voted to fund through the carbon reduction program. So you'll notice that improving signals in the downtown area, which will hopefully have a pretty big impact on traffic congestion regionally on our interstates. So I'll hand it over to Marty to begin.
Thank you, Daniel, for that introduction, and let me know if I'm not speaking loud enough at any point. It's still early for my speaking voice today. Thanks for the opportunity to give this update today, and I appreciate any comments we get today. We did want to give you an update. We are toward the end of the process of developing this 10-year action plan to help keep downtown moving. We've spent the last 2 years working through defining the issues, understanding the problems, and defining what we could do to solve those problems and what we should be focusing on. The plan focuses on downtown within the loop of the interstate with a primary focus on the west side of downtown, the west side of the river, which is opposite side of the stadiums. We've also had parallel efforts going on the east bank. So just wanted to set that up. As you'll recall, we have 4 sponsors of this project, including TDOT, National Downtown Partnership, WEGO, and NDOT. And my team, the planning team at NDOT that I lead, we had the privilege of managing this project and working with our partners throughout the effort. Go ahead to the next slide, please. And just as a brief background, around in 2022, we were working with our stakeholders to identify problems and address any of them and help us understand what the concerns are that we needed to prioritize in the plan. Moving on to 2023, we were about developing the solutions and then starting to socialize those solutions with the community, testing them, modeling, that sort of thing to make sure that they were viable projects. Next slide, please. And as we moved into the last stage of the process where we were taking after we had tested all of the recommendations, we took them back to the community and we managed that process by organizing into these themes that you see on the board here now. And of course, safety is one of those, improving safety, and that builds off of the conversation we were just having. But these 5 big moves are what we used to organize the solutions that we generated that we then took to the community for one last round of input and for another round of just making final tweaks to get to where we are right now. If you go on to the next slide. And we, last time, well, I should say when the last time was, we had an opportunity to speak with the RTA board, which some of you, I know there's a lot of overlap, and we're able to hear more details on the recommendations at the meeting back in November. Today, I want to focus more on what we're doing next, what would be, the first levels of implementation and just projects that we'll focus on moving forward. And Daniel had hit on one of those in terms of managing congestion, but over the last month or so, we have been looking at very minor edits, working with individual stakeholders on access issues. Garage access issues was a big thing that we had to focus on. You'll see other things on the board here that we've targeted in that last phase, as well as just emphasizing the technology infrastructure that needs to go in first. That is a big concern or a big goal of a lot of our stakeholders in downtown was let's get some of that technology that we need to get into the 21st century in place first, analyze, understand those impacts, and then build from there on some of the other infrastructure projects that we're recommending in this plan. All right, go on to the next slide, please. And just getting into those big moves, it's hard to see what was highlighted. I guess you can't see it at all, actually. The near-term actions are highlighted in a very faint color, the top 3 bullets on this particular list, and then the second bullet, the bullets under the third big bullet there, the additional enhancements. Those are all 4 things that we'll be focusing on in the first couple of years. Over the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something in there, we have been working again with some of the individual stakeholders on the operational conversions. We're looking at on 2nd Avenue, 3rd and 7th and 4th. There will be some operational changes, but we've gotten more into the weeds on that. I feel like we've landed on a place where we're comfortable in implementing and taking that to the community. I'll point out though that the TMC, signals, and the TDM program, those are all TIP projects that have regional benefits that this group has helped in supporting. And so those all will be enhanced, and the other recommendations in Connect Downtown will build off of those and bring more value to them. Going to the next one, please. And specifically on that, I wanted to highlight the managing congestion on our transportation demand management program and just highlight 2 things in particular under that phase 1. We do want to develop a more robust plan for our TDM program that can be more comprehensive. But that last bullet under phase 1 about launching a visitor and event focused TDM program is going to be unique to Nashville and addressing some of our needs and working with our visitors to make them more aware of the different travel choices they have when they do come to Nashville. They don't have to drive or take the Uber everywhere that they go and take up space on the roadway. All right, let's go to the next one, please. Safety, we mentioned that earlier. Of course, building off of the conversation earlier, education programming is something that's very important to our Vision Zero program at MDOT and at Metro. All of these things that are shown on the improved safety slide are incorporated into all of the different big moves. So that's where you see a lot of the overlap, but we do build in like no right on red or leading pedestrian intervals will be important features in the downtown of the future to make sure that we're keeping our pedestrians and most vulnerable travelers safe. On to the next one, please. And then the idea of moving more people, that's our transit focused section. And the idea in the first phase or the first 3 or 4 years is to really focus on the design for the Sobro Transit Center, as well as the East Bank would be kind of coming on its own timeline as the stadium develops. On the transit priority corridors to really get started. And those, just the background on the transit priority corridors, what we mean by that are the dedicated bus lanes that loop, the gray loop that you see going around the downtown area. Then all of our network can then take advantage of having that channelized section there. We would also be talking about some additional priority features on 4th Avenue, 3rd Avenue downtown, but also looking at the routes as they leave downtown and looking for opportunities to make transit a higher priority in terms of the infrastructure leading into downtown to better make those movements better. Let's see here. Yeah, go on to the next slide, please. And an emphasis on the transit side too, just to, and Steve and Felix are here from WeGo, and they can hit on this when we get to the question answer portion. But the 2 new mobility centers and the transit priority corridors, those are going to go a long way to increasing the efficiency of the system. It'll allow WeGo to reconfigure the network of bus routes so that they can take best advantage of that downtown loop, as well as the new mobility centers allow for more frequent service, longer hours of service, and that sort of thing. And also be able to better connect the regional transit service that comes from the WeGo Star into downtown to the rest of the network. Whereas right now it might sort of sits on an island to itself. But the idea of being better connectivity so that we can make better use of that existing infrastructure. Let's see here. Go on to the next one, please. We're focusing on mobility lanes and the bike and pedestrian network, as well as scooters and other uses that we haven't really thought of yet that might fit into those lanes in the future. The idea is to really focus hard on getting the designs, getting some of these in place in the first phase, building them into the other projects like the conversions of corridors and that sort of thing moving forward. Wanted to point out too, one of the projects I'll highlight is the East Nashville Spokes project, which is also a TIP project that was funded several years ago. That we're in the NEPA phase of that process right now. And that will connect East Nashville to downtown with a very safe, protected bicycle route. And on to the next slide, please. Last one being the maximizing the curb. We're really excited about opportunities here. So much activity goes along on not only the curbs in downtown Nashville, but I'm sure throughout your communities as well. We hope that some of the work we're doing and we're hoping to do with implementing this would be good ideas for your communities, your downtowns as well, where you might have a lot of competing interest on the curb, whether it's for deliveries or valets or just whatever it might be that makes use of that curb, repairmen, that sort of thing. Letting the curb be a little bit more flexible throughout the day, understanding the valet zones, for example, you don't really need that all day, 24 hours a day. So are there other uses that could take advantage of that space during that time? So we'll be looking at valet zones, better curb enforcement. We're also looking at some piloting opportunities, working with some companies that are in that space right now to help us get started. And that's something we'd like to do really in the next several months to get that going. But again, the maximizing the curb, that's going to go a long way to bringing some order to what some might consider chaos in our downtown, especially in the high peak use times, which generally is in the evenings as the tourist areas really get going. Go on to the next one, please. And so just thinking of how we phase this, we did have 3 phases, first 3 years in the first, and in the next 3, and the next 3. But really wanting to focus on in the first phase, the TMC and advancing the signals. Like Daniel mentioned, we have gained some funding for doing that. We're going to continue looking for additional funding to implement it throughout downtown. Continue to reassess and reevaluate as we make these improvements on the corridors, whether it's operational changes or improving sidewalks or widening sidewalks in some locations. We'll continue to monitor that and understand what those impacts are and how they're addressing the goals. And there'll be opportunities throughout for our community and other stakeholders to continue to be engaged as we design those projects. Next, please. And then to bring it all together, Connect Downtown is one part of what we're doing in the central core of downtown. Of course, there's the East Bank that I'm sure you're all familiar with from the various reports in the media and even here in discussions at this in this group. But the idea here is that we're not only just doing a project that helps downtown. This is a regional improvement. When we improve the reliability and the service of our transit network in downtown, that has ripple effects throughout the region where transit service is provided. It also increases their opportunities for people throughout the region to get to jobs and entertainment and whatever else they want to get to in our downtown. And this is also just emphasizing the value added to other projects that are also on the table right now or at various stages of development, like the BRT on, we're looking at BRT opportunities on Murfreesboro Pike. And like I mentioned earlier, the Spokes project, it's the bike and pedestrian project in East Nashville. We're looking at a Gallatin Pike corridor. And of course, you're also aware that we're also looking at a wider opportunities for investments and funding. That conversation is ongoing in our community right now and will continue to go. And we've had benefits, obviously, if this plan becomes real, but we'll continue to look for funding no matter what happens through that process to implement these projects. So in other words, our entire region benefits from these types of investments, and we appreciate the support we've had in the past from this board and from the MPO, and the funding will probably be coming back in the future for more. So look forward for other opportunities to continue to inform this group, and we're welcome. Diana, I believe, is still here, or maybe not. They can answer questions, and we've got folks from WeGo, and so if you have questions, we'll be happy to address those.
Any questions for Don? Hearing none, board would like to thank Vice Mayor Henderson and Mayor Connell for their work, what they're trying to do to improve mobility in that region. Pass that to them. They had to leave and go to an event, but you're taking questions if anybody's got one, right? So we'll see none. We'll move on to our regular reports. We'll move to our federal report. I'm gonna recognize Melanie Murphy.
Yeah, so actually, Sean Santaya, yeah, we keep you on your toes.
We got Melanie down there. They're always messing with you with maps, so.
Yeah. Well, Melanie was here last week and or last meeting, and generally does provide the report, but I just wanted to step in for this week to let everyone know. So you all will recall last year, Pam Cordenbrock did accept a special assignment with our Office of Operations headquarters office. And we did find out this week that assignment has turned into a full-time position that she's accepted. So we're going to have a change in leadership at our office. We have advertised to fill that division administrator position. Pam is still with FHWA and still will serve as a resource. We're working with her on a couple of different case studies and things. But as far as local Tennessee division service, we are going to have that change in leadership. Staff will continue to hopefully provide the same level of service that we have to the region, to the MPO staff here. So we'll remain accessible and available, but we will keep everyone updated as we fill that division administrator position. So just wanted to make the group aware of that. And then also, as far as other sort of regular reports, just to commend the board on all of the discussion on safety. I mentioned this is a high priority of the secretary. A few years back, we issued a national roadway safety strategy, and as we do at the federal level, we identify and promote best practices. We try to set up a policy framework. We try to throw funding behind different innovative solutions towards the problems that we're finding, but we do need that partnership with our state DOTs, MPOs, local agencies to be successful in that. So that is why we're seeing the Safe Streets for All notice of funding is out currently. So definitely encourage this group to very much consider an application to that funding opportunity. It seems like even here today, every question that gets answered spurs another dozen questions about what's going on. How do we tackle these complex issues? And so that is the intent of that Safe Streets for All action planning process, is to help to get ahead of those sorts of things. So that's due, and Daniel does the GNRC MPO group does a great job of maintaining your grants dashboard, but that deadline is April 4th, May 16th. We've got sort of phased deadlines for that NOFO. We did also recently announce the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program. NOFO was recently released. This is a new similar sort of competitive grant program to plan, design, and construct infrastructure to provide substantial additional opportunities for walking, cycling, and other forms of active transportation. So this is $45 million that is available through that funding opportunity. Local and regional governmental organizations, states, multi-county districts, tribal governments are eligible applicants for this. And this will have both, similar to Safe Streets for All, we can award planning and design grants and construction grants. And applications closed for that program on June 17th of this year. And then last one I'll mention is the prioritization process pilot program. This is $30 million to fund the development and implementation of publicly accessible, transparent project prioritization processes to inform our short range and long range transportation plans. So we have, over the years, had a lot of discussion with the MPO staff and recognized in a lot of ways the prioritization process that the MPO currently takes. But there might be an opportunity here to look at this notice of funding opportunity to see if there's a next step that can be taken with that prioritization process if there's interest. So this is only eligible for MPOs that serve our urban areas with a population over 200,000. So Nashville in Tennessee's case would be competing with just a sort of smaller pool. And the deadline for that is May 1st of this year. So happy to take any questions.
Questions on our federal report? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, maybe they'll put down the replacement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No.
Okay, everybody knows Matt. Matt, we missed you last month.
I was here, apparently.
Really?
Well, you called me out, as somebody that had
I'll
hair.
tell you that. I told you we missed you. Everybody knows Matt. You want to give us your TDOT report?
Yeah, real quick, staff just announced our 24 cycle for planning grants. We awarded 19 across the state with about a $2.4 million price tag for all of those. Within Region 3, we had two. Within the MPO region, we had two. One was in Nashville for a safety project on Old Hickory Boulevard, and another one was in Lebanon for a potential bypass study. So those will be, I think at some point we can come and have a report when those things become more finalized. Along the safety lines, I did want to stress too that I think everybody, I hope everybody is aware that TDOT stresses safety as a major component. So I wanted to provide a little bit of the statistics of what we've been doing for the state. So we receive about $60 million in highway safety improvement program funds. A lot of that goes towards our road safety audits. I think you've all been aware of that, or some of you have been part of a safety audit at some point. We spend about $35 million a year on those. We actually have a more recent program, the local safety initiatives. Those are spent at about $5.5 million a year clip. We also have the multimodal division that do a lot of safety work, and that's spent about $6 to $7 million per year. We have a resurfacing program that helps with striping and adds the safety components to those. That is about $8 to $10 million per year. And we also have a spot safety program, which is a state-funded program that is funded at about $4 million a year. Last year, 2023, we let 57 projects to contract with about $62 million that were safety related. So again, we understand that safety is a big deal. We want to make sure that we're part of that conversation and are also helping with that solution. So I think that's all I have at this point. I don't know if any of our folks have anything that they want to add.
Yeah, man, I got a few updates. Sean Armstrong, Region 3, Pre-Construction Director. On the topic of safety, a reminder, April 15th to the 19th, National Work Zone Awareness Week. So the region does a big campaign with our districts. Brian, it means you're going to have to slow down the construction zones and remember, move over. Sorry, I'm picking on Brian, but just another component to add to what we do and focus on safety, especially our workers out there. So please be sure to slow down in those zones, not just that week, but as we continue to go through. I mentioned last time, performance-based maintenance contracts, PBMC, North contract, which is all of Davidson County, and I-24, I-65 to Kentucky. And the South contract is all the remaining interstates in the region. Those contracts have been executed. They go live. So those contractors, the firms go live April 23rd at midnight. So what you'll see is our crews will start cycling off interstates. You'll start seeing these firms. So Jorgensen,
Associates and Weber Infrastructure will be the two firms handling our maintenance on our interstates. We're extremely excited. It alleviates our staff to focus on our state highways. So it's a big deal for us in the region, being the, first one here in the state tackling this. So we're excited to have it executed and move forward. Speaking on maintenance, potholes, I got a stat for you running, but you guys realize we had a record snow that hit us. Then it got really cold and then it rained a lot. So it just potholes just became evident that was going to happen. We're patching as quickly as we can. We're at the mercy of the asphalt plants and to get permanent fixes out there. From January 21st to March 18th, we've used approximately 3 million pounds of patching materials at approximately $3 million of state costs. Lastly, myself and John are still going to be hanging around a little bit afterwards for any project questions come up to us. We're happy to assist. I'm gonna toss it to Rebecca real quick to talk a little bit about what's coming up.
So last time we were here, we did talk about the choice lanes project. I know everyone has many questions. We're going to have our first introduction to the project for stakeholders tomorrow afternoon. I know some in this room have already RSVP'd, others, have at least received the invitation, but if we want to make sure that all of you are kept up to date and abreast of all the information. So that's tomorrow at 1. It will be virtual. If you would like to connect with me after the meeting, I can make sure to get your info and get that invitation to you if you have not already.
Good. A lot of information comes from TDOT. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Matt. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm glad we're on first name basis.
How are you?
I've got a question for Matt.
Okay, go ahead, but Fairmore.
Statistics you were given as far as those safety funds, that's statewide.
It is statewide, yes. Yeah, I do not have the breakdown. If there's an interest, we might be able to bring in our safety folks for a safety presentation on our program. If that's something that you'd be interested in, let me know and we can maybe set that up at some other time.
And the funding you were speaking of, is that safety enhancement grants? Or is that a separate?
It's a mix of state dollars and federal dollars, the Highway Safety Improvement Program.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Matt. I'm gonna do the chair's report. Really, I don't have a report. I'm just gonna say my time's up. And I appreciate all y'all supporting me as I sat here. I started out, I felt like I was following some big high hills. Mayor Reed is very, very knowledgeable, and she was a lot of help. I wish she was here so I could thank her. And as you see, my wife says I'm full of it, so Matt will probably second that. But yeah, but I enjoyed sitting here and seeing y'all. It's some of the best days being my mayor of Ross County is spending time with y'all. I enjoy getting out of the county and seeing everybody and seeing the camaraderie and everything, what we do. And there's a lot of work, and safety is very important. I tell my people, a lot of times that's where the money goes. It depends on safety. And I don't care what we do if dealing with the public, like the construction zones. People just drive too fast. That's just, they're rubbernecking and everything. And these people at these construction zones are highly in a dangerous situation. So we appreciate the work they do. And I'm going to thank Michelle for stepping in for Michael. And so with that, I'm going to move to her to do Michael's staff report.
Playing Michael Skipper on TV today. I have just a few updates for you all. Just a brief update on the climate pollution reduction program. The state and GNRC submitted their respective PCAPs, the priority climate action plans, for the state and for RMSA on March 1. And so that made the RMSA eligible, or certain projects in our MSA eligible for a portion of implementation grants. Right now, we are working with WeGo, Metro Nashville, Wilson County, Mount Juliet, and Lebanon on a application that would seek about $500 million in investments to support the WeGo STAR that are outlined in investments that are outlined in their future direction strategy planning effort. So we are excited about that. That is due April 1st. A couple of other things. Some of you may have seen in today's Daily News Journal that there was an article about Murfreesboro having conversations to learn more about what it would take for them to become a NPO. We were made aware of that conversation at the end of last week, and we've encouraged the city to have a broader set of stakeholders come together and have a conversation so that there's a well-informed and broad conversation about that opportunity. And we know more about that. We will share more. And last Friday, I'll brag on some of our mayors. Mayor Moore and Mayor Brown and Mayor Pitts joined Michael at MTSU for a regional summit on growth and challenges in Middle Tennessee and did a wonderful job representing the regional council and you all on behalf of the regional council and upcoming meetings. So if you'll, oh no, I'll go to Taylor.
Hi, everybody. Taylor Lee. I'm the park delivery coordinator. At the end of your pack, the back of your pack, the last 3 pages here, we have our tip status reports on every one of our handouts. I just want to kind of go through, probably moving forward, do this every meeting, kind of go through and hit the highlights, kind of see how our progress is in this year, and then also the whole tip period. I'm not going to go through every figure, so don't worry. I'm not going to expect you all to remember everything as you go through. As you see here on the slide, we're about 29% of our obligated funds have through 26, fiscal 26 have been obligated. At the same time, the amount of time that has passed has been 35%. So 17 of those 48 months. So we see we're about 6-7% behind right now. If we had looking at purely on this scale, okay, how do we get that number? On the next page, you see figures 3 and 4. Figure 3, those are state dollars. Most of those are going to be either spent by the state directly, or in the case of CMAQ or TAP, awarded to a project through a competitive grant application. And then you see there they have about 189 million, but spent about roughly $60 million in this year. And figure 4 is our suballocated. So this is that the MPO gets directly allocated every year from FHWA. So you see we have about $94 million fiscal year 24. We obligated about 400,000. And we have that list of those projects been obligated on the next page on figure 5. So what I want to call attention to is right now we have this is kind of new to this status report, is we have those CRP, this carbon reduction program funds have been added to that figure. I know we had a couple of projects, phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 is mostly for overruns and additional construction funding, projects of that nature. I think that's been in the tip and everything is now through. I know it's not just a matter of simply just requesting the funds. Sometimes there's more work that needs to be done. And we understand that going through the process. I know we have also some other projects that are coming up this spring that are being worked on, hopefully get obligations. So those numbers should shoot up, I think, in the coming weeks. But I just want to go through and kind of say how we get those numbers. And when we say like where we are in the obligation, how that breakdown is. So you see the state dollars at the top, either directly allocated or on a local programs project like CMAQ, and our directly suballocated dollars that are going to be on local programs projects. And then as we go through, we also have on figure 6 our list of available grants and our 2010 map on the back for federal urban aid boundary, which will be updated, I guess, when that is adopted. I don't know, Sean, I don't have an update on that.
It's under review at our office and with headquarters.
Okay, so as soon as that is adopted, hopefully, it'll be updated in the back as well. But really what I want to say is, anything, if you've got any projects that you have that are going through any issues or any troubleshooting, I want to be there to help you all. I know I've worked with several of y'all and your staff on projects to make sure we can fix issues, but I want to make sure, please come to me. I want to come and kind of get these projects that may have been delayed through any kind of administrative issues or even just things that maybe have been completed or just a miscommunication. We get those fixed and get those projects done. I want to see that money spent and get those projects delivered to the citizens of the region. But I'm here to take any questions. I'll be here afterwards if you have any questions about specific projects or the status report as a whole. But I just want to kind of make a focus on this today and make sure I talk to you all.
Good.
Yeah, Michelle, this report at the very end is very helpful. Very helpful. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I should have said in my staff report that this GNRC staff is well prepared. Seem to be doing a great job, and I appreciate what all they've done for me. Yeah. Anybody else got any questions? Any more business to bring before one more thing?
I want to remind everybody where we will be over the next 2 months. Next month, the regional council will meet at the downtown library. We are adopting the annual update to the comprehensive economic development strategy. And we are also adopting the annual update to our area plan for aging and disability services. And additionally, we will have a representative from the Alzheimer's Association come and provide a presentation to you all about how to prepare your emergency responders to support the needs of older adults in your communities as they struggle with changing in their mental capacity, whether that's diagnosed or other challenges that they'll talk about. So I think with some of the previous conversations we've had about the importance of our emergency responders, I think it'll be a really good conversation for you all to hear. And then May 15th, the Transportation Policy Board will meet at the archives, and we'll have a preview of the regional application for the Safe Streets for All grant. And we'll begin the conversation about updating the regional transportation plan and also tip amendments and other updates for you all. So, and I want to thank Mayor Vogel because I don't think he gives himself enough credit.
Done. If you're done, I'll take one more motion. Okay, I'll get to us one more time. We're adjourned.
Leave your name tags on the table, guys.
Look, I done grabbed mine.
Leave these photos.
I know.
I noticed on that.